Yep. Let me keep refreshing here.
Can you go into YouTube and say to people we're coming, or
I should be. Let me. Well, this feels just continually problematic. If anybody is with us, I can't see that we're actually live. Yeah, there's 7 people waiting in there. It's scheduled for right now.
and you're not, are you able to go into YouTube, or should Hannah try on her
No, no,
computer?
I'm looking in YouTube,
Oh, but
and it is
but you can't talk directly to people over there.
this stream, this like it says we're live, and it's not.
Connecting.
We're not live, and I don't know how to. How could I get us in there?
Well, we sent people a link. I wonder what would happen if I clicked on that link. Don't know, but
Um,
I'm
I
going to
don't
just
understand.
click on the link to the join the YouTube meeting and see what happens.
Yeah, when I click on that YouTube, it says it's waiting for Kevin Miller.
Yeah,
It's
that's
waiting
what
for
I
us to
got.
start.
Waiting for Kevin
Yeah.
Miller. And there's no way for you to open that. Weird.
I'm thinking.
Take your time.
How do I? I just don't understand how it's not the same setup as we've always used. So here I am, logged into my own YouTube channel. It's waiting for me. I how could I just get us into the live broadcast? Customize channel, go live. I've just got to get. I don't. No reason I haven't done this before, but my tech guy who sets stuff up, have him figure this out, because I mean, I
Yeah,
assume it's user error that I did something wrong. I don't know what it is that I did wrong. And I
that's
don't
what
know
Terry
why.
said.
Thanks for that. Appreciate you. Yeah, you just destroyed my self-image, my identity.
Well, I feel better.
Great. If I go live, I just hit go live. Session 6. I just did this to go live, but I don't know if it works. I don't know how to bring you in.
Well, we could go over and join it if you're in there.
Well, how do you?
Trying to see where the YouTube channel is. Oh, let me go over to the YouTube channel and see what's going on. It's still waiting for you.
It is
Mm-hmm.
connect streaming software. Oh, son of a gun. It's asking me to do something that I don't understand.
There's somebody in the chat. What's that?
There's a couple people, Gary and Judy.
So they're talking.
Yeah, I'm responding to him.
We could put out a Zoom link, but it's, I'd have to create it, have to email it to everybody. Unless,
Wait, that's an idea though. Just the people who are right here. Okay, so here we are. Um, how do I get the link now? I could invite them. And it looks like there may be some people who found this. Folks, if there's anyone listening to us right now, I'm so sorry. It's like I've got two different streams going, and we've got some people waiting in a different stream. But it looks like there's some folks who are with us right here. If I could figure out the invitation link, I could just put it in the other stream and let those folks come over here. Why am I not seeing the invite link? So if you're with us and listening, my apologies. Last week was on no praise, no blame, but we can all blame Kevin.
I am.
Invite.
There's 6 comments in the chat, but I can't see any of them. Don't know why I can't see them.
I see that there's 6 too, and I can't see them either.
Live stream, 7 people. Oh, now I see the chat. I went to YouTube to subscription and found you live. There was an additional link below that said join Kevin live. Kevin, what if we use this and send them a link to Zoom?
Well, or do you want, if we can get the link to where we actually are live?
Well, I don't know if that's the link that's up in the URL. We could send that to people. Is that what we'd send them, or is that no? Because that's for us.
Oh, here we are, right here. This is where we're live right now. So if I take that, okay. I'm trying to go into where their people are waiting.
Are there more than the 7 people that have been chatting?
Well, I'm just having my own, my computer just doesn't seem to be responding, or at least on YouTube.
You see what happens if I try to create a Zoom link?
Sure.
Okay.
What I'm trying to do right now, I don't know why it's not working. There we go. Wait a minute. Hey, I'm just sending them here. So in the chat, so there's 7 people. I don't know how many people. And I just gave them the link because we are actually live on YouTube, but it just put us in another box. And so if I go to that one, okay, there's some folks. We've got some people with us. Christy's with us. Christy, thank you. I just had lunch with Christy Marvel, and she's in there. I see you guys now. I am so sorry. Christy, Ellen, CB, Gary, you got us. Okay, we've got some people with us. How about if we just start rolling?
Okay.
I've got the chat there. So guys, I can see you. There may be a few folks that are going to miss us if they don't see that in the chat, but here we are. We've been sitting here BSing for 10 minutes. And
Just got a note. Somebody's in the waiting room. I don't know. I don't know if there's a way to give a message to people that are in the waiting room.
I thought I did. There's a chat. We've got 12 people listening right now. So
All right.
how about we go with them?
Okay. Let's go.
All right, folks, thanks. I do see the chat. Judy, you're with us. Okay. Okay. Well, I'll figure this out. I've got
Okay.
to figure this out. I'll get somebody smarter than I am. But we are let me put a
That's going to be hard to
timestamp.
do.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's do an official intro. Folks, thanks for joining us again for another Sage discussion. And this one, we want to hit this aspect of projection. And Jake, let me just have you introduce it. You left me, you talked with me about, we all know that concept. I think most everybody listening has heard, oh, projecting. Oh, yeah, I'm projecting something on someone else. Or I was thinking about it earlier today, too, that in a sense, what's that old adage that I don't experience things as they are, I experience them as I am?
Right.
We've all heard that. And I think I have for a lot of my life shook my head at that. I agreed with that with no concept of what that really is. I hear that and go, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I go and I have the next experience with the next circumstance, the next external person, whatever it is, and I just think that what I'm experiencing is what is,
Right.
and it is so. This concept of projection, I would say, Jake Eagle says we're getting it wrong. So, Jake,
Yeah. Freud got it wrong. Everybody's gotten it wrong for a long time. That's my audacious statement for today. So
I buy it.
let's start with the sort of traditional understanding of projection, which is that it's a defense mechanism. And it's where a person attributes their emotion or their thoughts to someone else. And it's considered to be kind of a pathology or, like I say, a defense mechanism, and that it happens most when we're feeling threatened or insecure. So let's just say that I'm angry at you, but the projection is I'm going to tell you that you're being hostile, or I'm going to tell you that you're being angry. Really, what I'm doing is I'm taking how I am experiencing my emotions and I'm essentially putting them on you. It's very confusing. It externalizes the conflict. So no longer am I taking responsibility. I'm saying it's you. You're doing this. I don't take responsibility for my own emotion. And this is happening pretty much unconsciously. It's happening a lot. Sage has a completely different perspective on what would be called projection, which is that it's a natural consequence of our subjective interpretations. So, one way to think about it is that projection is an interpretation. It is an interpretation and it is unavoidable. It happens all the time. So, let's say that you and I are having an interaction. From a sage perspective, there's four selves involved. There's me, there's you. We all understand that. But then there's, from a sage perspective, I would say there's you and me. In other words, how I think of you in my mind. I'm making this up. This is essentially my creation. And then I'm going to, if I don't know Sage, then I'm going to tell you about you based on my representation or what I actually call a hallucination. And then you're doing the same thing. So I said, there's you, there's me, there's you in my mind, and there's me in your mind. So those are the four actors. If we understand this, if we recognize this, we're going to eliminate, I would say, the vast majority of confusion in interpersonal dynamics. Because I'm going to stop telling you about you and I'm going to start talking about me, about how I'm interpreting things. And I'm even going to tell you how I'm creating you in my mind, what I'm imagining is true about you. So, a simple example, let's say you walk in the room and you have a uh, snarl on your face or a frown. So I say, let's say it's Kevin. I say, Kevin walked in the room. Okay, that's true. Kevin is the person over there and he walked in the room. Then I say, and Kevin is mad. Well, I don't know if Kevin is mad. I'm interpreting the expression on his face as if that means he's mad. So now I tell him, Kevin, you're mad at me. I don't know why. You're clearly in a bad mood. He's not at all. He's going, what's going on here? And I go, well, you're angry. Because no, I'm not angry. And we're in a mess. And we're going to try to sort that out. And I'm going to suggest it's almost impossible to sort that out because we're not attributing things properly. I'm not looking at what am I doing and allowing Kevin to tell me what he's doing, how he feels, what his emotions are. If we can slow down and get very clear, and Hannah and I do this in the rare instances where we have some tension or conflict, we'll stop and I'll talk very clearly. Here's what I'm imagining is going on for you. I don't know what's going on for you, but I'm imagining that you're disappointing yourself because of what I did last night. That's very different than telling her that she's disappointed in me or that she's angry or that she's withdrawing. None of those things may be her experience. So, this is a way of dissecting interpersonal dynamics to eliminate confusion and eliminate defensiveness. So, that's kind of a basic overview, and we'll dig into this a little bit more.
Yeah, I've got two areas I want you to dig in on more. And the first one is when you first said there's four, if we're having a conversation together, there's four people involved. There's me, you, and then you and me and the me and you. And when I first heard that, back to talking about identity, there's me. And this is, I think, difficult for me to even figure out how to speak. And I think difficult for us to conceive of for a lot of people that who is me? Well, I'm supposed to know who I am, right? We know that from a cultural standpoint, you figure out who you are. I know what I am. Well, I'm my own projection. I am my own. Who the hell is me? I am Kevin's projection of Kevin, who I think that I am. And I can go and say all these things that I am and know that out of my 9 kids, they may all have a different perspective. And I say, gosh, I am incredibly patient. And one of them will say, no, you're not, Dad. You're the most impatient. Well, what am I? I'm their projection, my projection. So I'm beginning with a made up projection of myself that I don't, what's true. There's the other aspect, what's true. I think that we're in agreement that there's not a truth. The truth is that there's a projection.
Well, and there's the truth. For example, my example, Kevin, you walked into the room. We can all agree that you walked into the room, right? Some
Okay.
things are observable and we can all agree. It's as soon as we start attributing emotions, feelings, and thoughts to people that we're putting our projection on them. And what I'm saying is we can't not do that. We're always going to have interpretations, but I can be clear that I'm talking about myself. That's the difference. I'm talking about myself. I don't really know how you feel. I don't know what your state of mind or mood is right now, but I can tell you what I'm perceiving it to be. Now, if I do that, the chances are good that you'll be able to listen and not get defensive. So we're shifting from reactivity to people being able to A, take responsibility, and then be responsive instead of reactive, be conscious.
So on the aspect of curiosity, it gives me the chance to go, Jake, gosh, so we came onto this and the tech wasn't working. I was late showing up. You were angry.
Damn right.
Okay. Well, outside of that, well, but so my identity is concerned about that. I'm like watching your face, looking for the cues. But the real thing is, I'm irritated with myself for being late, and then on top of that, I don't know what's wrong. I'm probably going to assume that I did something incorrect in setting this thing up, which I irritate myself with more. I'd really like to blame it on the software or the whatever. So I'm irritated with myself. I'm looking to salve my identity. I'm hoping you're not irritated with me.
Yep.
But I could ask, hey, so not even ask, and even that, my thought would be to ask, were you irritated? Say, okay, so I was late. I care, I care about our relationship. How did you feel about that?
Exactly. And I that would be very clarifying for both of us because I get to take responsibility for whatever I'm doing, and then you know what I'm doing instead of imagining or hallucinating that I'm angry at you. And just for fun, so you know, at one point you went offline. We shut down this and restarted it. And when we did that, I said to Hannah, I said, it's impossible to be annoyed or angry at this guy. There's something about him that's so likable. I would be annoyed at anybody else.
Thank you. Though projecting, what I'm ultimately doing is I'm looking at you because I'm thinking if I was you,
Right.
I'd probably be irritated. So I'm projecting my irritation on there. So I want to come and do that. But can I just say, gosh, how did you feel? It would be amazing to have somebody, like one of my kids to say, Dad, this and this happened. How did you feel about that? Instead of what we do.
Not only that, but it's so brilliant because as soon as you ask that question, I alter my state because I go from, let's just say that I was irritating myself or I was annoyed at you, and you ask that question. I appreciate you so much for asking the question.
Right.
And whatever state I was in, there's a very good chance that it shifts just in that moment.
Okay, let me ask another. I'll try to be brief. Oh, Ralph, I see you in the chat. He just says a book title. He's thinking about a book title from this discussion: "The Mysterious Case of Misattribution." Do you know that one?
I don't.
I don't either, Ralph. Thanks. I'm curious about the title, "Misattribution." Well, I have to wrap my brain around that.
But we are misattributing all the time. I'm attributing my emotions to other people all the time. I'm attributing my thoughts to other people all the time. Um, yeah,
Let me ask about that. Was where my question came from. I interpret myself in my past to have been very strong in the attribution, to use that word now. And I looked at the areas of life that I cared about: spirituality, health and wellness, relationships, and marriage and parenting, and all these things that I was so involved in. And I was looking for the best way to do it, the parent in a way that produced the best results that we felt like that I agreed with from my understanding. And I would take those and of course apply them. And especially if I have some good results, then that's what I take to my audience, which I've always seemed to accumulate people to influence and say, okay, this is good parenting. That is bad parenting. This is a good diet. That is a poor diet. And I did that, I feel like, to a high degree. Now, I will say that I think most people experience me doing it out of really caring and with a good heart. So I wasn't a jerk so much, but it was very cut and dried. And I look back now with, I don't appreciate that. I don't want to be that guy now because I can't take what works for me and attribute it to you and say that it is best, that is right, that is wrong, whatnot. It's hopefully there's some wisdom in there. Hey, this is what I have found wisdom in or found some benefit in for
right,
me. Here's what you think. It's such a different delivery. Talk about changing the mindset of you, because how often is that concept brought to me? Hey, this is the way to do it. And I'm thinking, no, it's not. And I just shut you off and we disconnect. This feels like if we project, we're back to the possibility, the probability of a disconnect. If we don't, do you have an opposite for projecting in this concept?
revealing.
Okay.
I'm revealing what's going on for me. The difference is night and day. When I start to project and tell Hannah about Hannah, uh,
That's
things
my
don't
big
go well.
that's my biggest trigger when And I will say, don't be telling me about me.
Mm.
So if I'm reacting, he's projecting.
It almost is that simple. If she's reacting, because she's a very non-reactive person, as I experience Hannah. So if she's reacting, I almost always can step out and look and realize I am in some way telling her about her. Even as you said, Kevin, even though my intentions may be really good, I may say, "Hey, I just want to tell you, you need to call so and so because you said you wanted to do this thing. I'm trying to be helpful." Still doesn't like being told about her.
No.
And it's so easy to say what I'm saying in a different way. I'll give you a short example about attribution. And Ralph, I think you should write the book. I realize it doesn't exist, but I think you should write it.
You had us. I think so. We'll
Yeah,
buy. I will buy a case of it because you got me.
that's a pretty good start. One of my stories about attribution that always has stood out is when John and Joyce were at the end of life, and Joyce was in an assisted living home. And John would go visit her, and he would tell us what it was like. And um, some days she was receptive and happy to see him. Some days she threw the bedpan at him, literally,
Or didn't know him.
or accused him of messing around with the nurses. This is when they're
Yeah.
in their 90s. And he tells me this story, and I say to him, "That's so sad. That's so sad. So tough for Joyce." And he says, "Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't project your emotions on Joyce. Let Joyce have her experience. Respect that Joyce is she's going to die the way she chooses to. She's going just like she chose the way she lives. So don't lay that on her." It was a very powerful moment because, of course, I was coming at it from what I felt was a heartfelt, sympathetic place, trying to be supportive. And he perceived what I was doing as disrespectful to Joyce because I was basically taking how I felt and assuming it's how she felt and assuming it's how he felt. And he said, "Don't do that." It was very clarifying moment for me.
You mentioned empathy. I continue to grapple with our cultural engagement with efforts to be empathetic. One of them, like you just mentioned, one I have I have somebody in my life that I care enough about to bring this up, and I haven't done it yet. But in the effort to be empathetic, if you're sharing something that you've experienced, they'll go. Not only they'll say, "Oh, I understand," but they'll say, "Oh my gosh, I completely understand." And in my head, I'm thinking that's impossible. It's impossible. And
Yeah.
for me, it's a disconnect. And I wonder if in our efforts, again, good heart, our efforts to be empathetic, when we say I completely understand, I found myself backing off of that and going, okay, how do I say to go, oh, if it's honest, to go, boy, I resonate with a lot of what you said, or I even align. I've even been trying to take away out of my vernacular that I agree, because that even feels rigid or conclusive, as opposed to, gosh, I resonate. Not even I resonate with what you said, but I resonate with a lot. I resonate with as much as I could even understand of your projection about that thing, your interpretation. And of course, in the meantime, as I'm grappling with what I'm going to say to you in that moment, I am aware. I'm aware. If nothing else, at least I'm aware. Even if I bungle the words up, I'm aware. I listening to us now is Christy Marvel, who I was, well, actually, it was her fault I was late.
There we go.
Completely her fault. She was so wonderful that it kept me engaged at lunch. And um, but Christy. You and I talked about that. You at one point said, "Oh, I bet I said some things that were not sage," just in that thing. And I hadn't even tuned into that, Christy. But I appreciated that you were sitting there engaged with me, talking, thinking about what you're thinking about what you're saying. And even if you go for a minute, like I do it right here. I really have to, because we are live. I feel a little anxiety myself a little bit with that, and I'll get to roll and talking. You can hear me speed up, and I go on autopilot, and then sometimes I'll wait and go, Are they going to tell me where I went off stage?" because I know I was on autopilot, and sometimes it works, sometimes it not. But I don't want to be there. Can I not go on autopilot and stay aware and slow down?
Well, what Christy was doing with you and what you're doing now is a demonstration of metacognition where you're aware and you're thinking about how you're thinking, which is just a huge step up in terms of development. So, no longer on autopilot, no longer unconscious, but I still may be speaking in a habitual manner, particularly as Kevin says, when you get excited, you get on a roll, you start talking fast. But at least I'm watching and listening to myself with some sage awareness. Typically, what I do when I recognize I'm autopiloting myself, slow down, take a breath. And typically, what I'll do is I'll enter into more disciplined use of sage language. Be very deliberate about what I'm doing in me. I'll even say things like, my interpretation is this. Sometimes I'll say, my hallucination about you is the following. And I don't think of hallucination in a negative sense. I think of it as a descriptive way of saying, I'm making something up in my head. And I want you to know what I'm making up to see if it's okay with you, if you offend yourself. I don't know what you're doing until you tell me.
I continue to play around with you said hallucination. I guess that's not one I think of as much as you use a lot illusion and
Yeah.
delusion. But any of those play I find myself with those, let's use those words, illusion, delusion, and hallucination. That at some point here, I was reading some spiritual tome here recently, and it again was calling us to reality, to achieve this, aspect of reality. And I feel like with Sage and with my own journey, what I'm trying to embrace and be secure and comfortable in is that I live in a hallucination. I do live in an illusion or a delusion. I'm really getting more comfortable with any of those and realizing I just now get to slow down and be aware of it and have personal agency and go, gosh, I realize I'm in this delusion right now. Am I okay with that? Is it constructive? Is it productive? Is it profitable? Whatever word you want to use, and go, God, I'm okay with it. I'm okay. And here's somebody else and they're in a different one. Am I okay with theirs? I'm okay letting them be there. Is it connecting me or disconnecting me? If it's disconnecting me and I want to be connected, I get the opportunity to be curious about theirs or to say where I don't really align and resonate. And if we don't come into some understanding, I may not want to hang out with you. Again, we're back into boundaries and whatnot. But I still, Jake, and there's not a week that goes by that I don't come up against what I feel like is this consistent call, especially in spirituality, to achieve reality, to live in reality, to be the one person who's transcended is always sitting there in reality. And we're sitting here going, it just doesn't, I mean, at least not the descriptors. Does the tree exist? I think we'd all agree that it does. After that, will we talk about the tree? It's just welcome to your illusion.
Subjective interpretation, that's really the foundation of this, is that we're subjectively interpreting everything. That's not good or bad, that's just human nature. um, Whether you want to call it an interpretation, a delusion, an illusion. I just saw yesterday on the news that every year Webster adds certain words to the dictionary, and this year they added delulu. Delulu means delusional.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a new word, delulu. And people often think if we're deluded or we're living in an illusion that it's a problem, it's a bad thing. It means we're missing reality. And what we're saying is, no, we're not missing reality. We're just being very clear about what we're actually doing, which is subjectively interpreting everything that goes on.
I think that's even telling myself, have I lived thus far in an illusion? Yes. Am I going to continue living in an illusion? Yes. I just get to steer it now.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Totally good. Okay. I wanted to read something because I confirmed myself with it, with what we're doing here. So you'll appreciate this because I know you know the guy or knew of him, Jay
Oh yeah.
Krishnamurti. Don't know what I can't remember what his first name is, but Jay Krishnamurti. That's what he signs his book at. So this is from the book Freedom from the Known, which I continue to read. This is this morning's reading. Uh, it says, "When we demand an experience of reality, as we all do, don't we? To experience it, we must know it. And the moment we recognize it, we have already projected it." It's his exact words. I mean, and that's the aspect of what do I experience when I'm looking out the window at the trees and the squirrels. I am rarely seeing a tree or a squirrel. I am seeing memory, programming, experience, and I'm interpreting it a certain way. When I see the dark clouds, if it's a day where I feel like being cozy and staying in the house with a cup of tea, I project right away on my view of the clouds, goodness. Ah, great, cozy. On the day when I'm planning a long ride that I don't want to do in the rain, I'm immediately projecting a negative feeling. Delusion after delusion after delusion based on that. And before I would say it's a sucky day, and the next day I would say it's a great day. And of course, now I don't say it is anything. I am. And you said something a minute ago, Jake, and I again, I continue to write it down that there for me in Sage, there is no more it is. There's no more that is. There's no more you are. There's no more I am, unless it is that base quote objective reality that I know that everybody is going to agree with, that this is a piece of wood. I no problem. It is. After that, the next
Other than that,
description, we'll say it again,
I'm making stuff up.
making stuff up.
Yeah.
Yeah. It may be wise stuff. Maybe go there because it's not totally benign. There's, I mean, I think this is maybe even in the blueprint. You talked about that. You didn't say benign, but it's not that it's,
Constructive. We make things up, and sometimes what we create is constructive, and sometimes what we create is destructive. Sometimes there's a neutrality to what we create, how we interpret the world. What I want to do is I want to pay attention and become aware. Is the way that I am interpreting this constructive? Does this work for me? Does this work for Hannah? Does it work for the people we're interacting with? And if not, instead of blaming myself, I step back and wonder, is there another way that I can interpret this that would be more constructive? That's a guiding question for me pretty much all the time.
I, I just wrote down constructive delusion. I remind myself of the book called Thinking in Bets by Annie Duke. I really like the terminology that we look at. I had a discussion yesterday uh, with a guy about objective realities and got to talk. I like to talk about gravity. It's such a stark one because I think we all agree on aspects of gravity, but then I make up what I'm going to do with it. He flies helicopters, or he did in the military, these fighter helicopters, and that's what he does today. He's in Germany teaching people how to fly that. His delusion has a different relationship with gravity than myself. I would not choose. I like Earth quite a bit and my feet upon it. And what's that delusion that we then make a bet on is I'm going to adopt that one and I'm okay. Now, if my fear of if I had a fear of heights that was debilitating and I couldn't go, I read something recently about somebody who couldn't go across a bridge. It just wigged them out. Well, if their kid lives on the other side or is in trouble on the other side, I'd say is that constructive? Maybe not. And you can work on that to know that it's their delusion. But I do then spend time betting on what delusions, hallucinations, things I make up seem to be the most productive. And I actually feel more faith understanding that they are and that I have choice as
Right.
opposed to I'm a victim to it.
And I think for the people listening, probably the word that is the easiest to hold, because some people will have a hard time thinking that they're being delusional or that they're living in an illusion. I think if you work with the word interpretation, it's the easiest one to embrace, that I'm constantly interpreting. Some of my interpretations are constructive and some are not. Some of my interpretations are experienced by Hannah as being respectful and some are not. And because I care so much about her, if she perceives my interpretation as not helpful, then I want to find another way to interpret what's going on. And there's a comment in the box that I think is really helpful. It says, when I notice I am projecting, I say, I sense, or I imagine you. And then the question is that close to what we're experiencing? And saying and saging, yes,
Sure.
absolutely. And those are nice ways to do this when you're dealing with people unfamiliar with sage, because they can get that, very quickly. You go, I'm imagining you're angry. I'm imagining you're having a hard day. I'm not telling you you are. I'm telling you that that's what I'm imagining. So that's a very uh, kind of effortless way to express something using sage language.
Okay, I got a question on that because I saw Leonard's comment there, and I have been going with that as well. That concept, I imagine you. Back to what the example we were playing with a little bit ago. I'm tempted to go to just asking you how you feel.
Yeah.
Well, what? Because if I say I imagine, Jake, I imagine that you're irritated with me for being late and messing up the tech. I'm still even saying that I imagine you. I'm putting you a little bit in the defensive because It's like I'm letting you know I know it's a projection, but I am projecting that on you as opposed to is it not even more, I was gonna say neutral ground. I don't know if I like that word, but more non-threatening, less threatening to even just say, gosh, so I was late, messed up the tech. I care about you. I'm wondering, how did you feel about that?
Yeah, I think that's the most elegant way for us to both get on the same page, because I feel completely invited and respected. Next best would be for you to say, I'm imagining or I'm interpreting an expression I noticed on your face, and I'm, you know, imagining it was irritation, but I don't know. That's second best. And then the least effective is to tell me what I was feeling. Hey, you were really pissed when I came in late, and now I'm not with you. Um,
Man, I again want to say I feel like the crash test dummy of Sage with a lot of my past life, the amount of time and the amount of content and energy that my former wife and I put into claiming how the other felt. I Oh my god, I think we destroyed ourselves so much
yeah.
with
That's
claiming what the other felt, claiming what the other meant. What?
we all grew up that way.
Hmm.
Don't you think this has been maybe the single biggest difference in our relationship?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
um, whenever there's tension, we really slow ourselves down and we go to this language that people will sometimes hear it as kind of weird and awkward. And you don't need to do it. You can use the expressions like I sense or I imagine. But what we do is we actually talk about you in me, right? So if I'm talking to Hannah, I'll say, let me tell you what I'm doing with you in me. And I point to my head. I
Hmm.
always do that. Go, what I'm doing with you and me. This has nothing to do with you, by the way. This is just in my mind. I am perceiving you as really disappointing yourself in what I did yesterday. And and because that's how I'm perceiving it, I have kind of taken a step back. But I don't know if that's what's going on. So I wanted to check in with you. This just cuts through so much confusion and tension and potential conflict.
I'm thinking of what you shared a session or two ago about literal your guys' past with Hannah. The you in her was flirting with other people. That the you in her is making advances towards other women that would be inappropriate according to your guys' agreement of your relationship. If she said you are flirting, you are making advances, of course you're over here going, no, I am not. Because in your head, you're not. But for her to let you know that the you in me because maybe in that place, if she was acting as if she would not be acting as she perceives you are, unless she was making advances. So we're back to projection. She's projecting how it would feel to her. I have done this. I struggle to continue to do this if I'm talking with somebody and they are making eye contact elsewhere other than me, or if they are doing something with their hands and doing that. And I project myself, because if we're talking and I'm not looking at you, I am not listening to you. My brain is where my eyes are, and I'm a visual processor. That's why here we're looking at each other. I can watch your mouth. I can see your eyes. I can see that you're not paying attention to me at all because you're a rat bastard and you're showing something to Hannah. And yeah, and I'm projecting. And it was my former wife who said, I'm different than you. I'm an auditory processor. It was actually my brother too. He says, sometimes I can listen to you better if I'm not looking at you and I'm distracting myself kinetically or whatever. And whether that's true or not, it just I got to quit projecting that. Now I may say, look, when we're talking, you may be totally different. I would really help myself if you would have more eye contact with me and not be shoving papers in somebody's face or whatnot, just as a favor to me. I'm sure whatever it may be factually, I don't know, but it would help me. And again, I'm owning my projection, as our topic is.
Yeah, I think the amount of time that people in intimate relationships spend trying to sort things out could be cut by 90% if they would shift and recognize this very simple concept that there's four selves in every conversation with two people. And I want to be clear which of the four I am representing. So the vast majority of the time, I am not representing you because I don't know you. I may know that you walked into the room. That's about it. I don't know your emotional state and I don't know what you're thinking. And so if I talk to you and I'm very clear about that, we're leaving the interaction, the expression, the opportunity to connect, we're leaving it very wide open.
I Yeah, I have worn myself out
Yeah.
projecting what I thought was reality, thought it was true, thought it was good, and then trying to convince others. I mean, the industry is we're influencers, right? We're influencing, and it's true. I want to influence my kids towards what I think will benefit them well. I think a diet of whole foods and vegetables will benefit them more than fast food. And I'm not, well, but still to own it and to not
Yeah.
take that projection.
And in the short time we've known you, I've seen you shift with your kids, particularly the older kids, where you're not really telling them what they should do. You may tell them what your preference is or what you appreciate, but it has a very different quality. And the other day we had a conversation with Kevin and Serene. Serene is his 16-year-old daughter who is really embracing Sage. And
She's remarkable.
yeah, I mean, I just,
I agree with
well,
that projection. I resonate with it.
I think that one's a fact. Yeah, I
Fair.
mean, really, to see this 16-year-old stepping into this worldview, I just inspired myself. I thought this is going to change this young woman's life in terms of how she relates to people and how she goes through the world. Very, very, I inspired myself with her.
And imagine if all of us had been doing this at 16.
And the way that she and Kevin related.
Yeah.
The way she was relating to her dad was not like any 16-year-old I've ever seen.
That's right.
Curious, open. Yeah, she wasn't looking to him to see if he agreed with her.
Yeah.
She was just saying, this is how I'm interpreting, how I'm making sense. Yeah.
I Okay, so here's an example. I would, in my past unintentional illusion, would have said, you follow Sage, do it with your kids. It will it will enhance and deepen and strengthen your relationships like nothing else. I, well, now I'm intentional with my illusion. And I would say in the past year of speaking and thinking sagely, subjectively, having personal agency with my projections, with my children, I have perceived and they have testified in many ways that their, I'm going to say trust, affection, connection has increased with me. Though the word I've gotten from Serene and another one, two other ones, I think, is they feel safer with
Yeah.
me. I think as a father, is there anything more that I would hope for? And it has, again, it's so stark from my past as I have left projecting on them, as I have left convincing, as I have left right, wrong, black, white, not preference. I haven't left preference and said, gosh, I've experienced great benefit from this. You judge it for yourself and let them, to what you said on a call with one of my groups months ago, to let them have their own personal agency and to blatantly let them, while I own my own. Uh, I was Serene. I should have had her join this. She's in the other room. Um, she has said, yeah, safety, trust, respect, all of it has just increased. And I'm just watching it with, I enjoy myself.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
just so grateful for this work that you guys were involved with. I don't know if you saw that in the chat, Ralph saying that he had heard your folks back with Percept. You got people here that have been on this journey a long time. That he knew your story about Joyce and dementia, and he helps himself with that story with his own sister who has dementia. But this work that's been going on, I thrill myself that we're here now. And as I've said before, if nobody else were to engage, that what it's done in me and in my immediate family and friends, best friends, closest friends, and even listeners. Christy Marvel is here. She's a listener that I haven't even exposed my audience to Sage yet. And yet she's just somebody from a personal connection. I said, hey, check it out. And here she is. And she's saying it is rocking her world. She is
Nice.
rocking her world as a result of her engagement,
Nice.
her projection
Welcome,
of Sage.
Christy. Right.
Yeah.
A couple things. One is how subtle this can be. So, a very, very common thing when people are talking, again, particularly couples or when you have an intimate relationship and the other person says something to you, and the response is often, well, how would you feel if I did that? This is very, very common.
Jake, you not called me out, but I told you of me doing that with my former wife. I spoke that I said, and you said, "Oh, I
Yeah.
caution you on that." So yeah, yeah. Since I've known you, I've done that.
How would you feel if I did that? Is assuming that you would feel the way I feel. And this was a hard one for us to break. Um, Hannah used to often say to me, how would you feel if I did that? And it would derail us from what we were talking about because my reaction was, uh, don't say that. I mean, we can come back to the content, but don't say that because it assumes that I would feel the same way you feel. And sometimes I might, but very often I might not. So I just encourage people to be careful of that very um, unconscious expression that most of us use a lot, assuming the other person would feel the way we feel. And then I just wanted to quickly go. I saw Dan made a comment that I don't completely understand, but he said, I prefer going first and offer something of what's behind my question, which by itself seems representative of hierarchy, teacher, manager, police, etc. Um, I'm not sure if I understand it, but it reminds me of something, which is when we're having an interaction with somebody, what we do is we say that the person who's the most upset should go first.
Hmm.
Because when I have a chance to speak, particularly if I'm using Sage, whatever the emotional charge I have is will decrease as I express myself genuinely. So remember, SAGE, subjective awareness. I'm aware of my subjectivity and I'm going to genuinely express myself. And when I do that, my nervous system calms down because I am genuinely expressing and addressing the way I experience the world. And if you're just willing to witness me and listen, I immediately feel better. So I think Dan was going somewhere a little bit different about going first, um, but it made me think of that.
I like your perspective of well, in my I paraphrased it in my head. I so appreciate you educating me on threat physiology versus safety physiology, which is in your is it in your book or in the transformative tales?
It's in the book Get Weird. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That I have used. I used it a couple of days ago with Serene. We were talking about how, communicating something and the difference when we were got out of the threat physiology. So in your aspect of two people in a conflict, say whoever's in the worst threat physiology, you go first, because if we don't dispel that stuff, uh,
Yeah. We're not going to get far when we're in that physiology. Exactly. Yeah.
and to your, something you said a second ago too, I do find myself so often coming back to whatever I'm about to say or project or interpret or claim and go, could just that basic line that's in the blueprint so much, could it be interpreted any different? If it can, don't say it is. That is, you are, I am. I mean, in most, I think what I still enamor myself with is I want to say 99.9% of everything I choose to communicate in a given day is subjective. It could all possibly, even if I exaggerate it, could somebody, interpret it different. Now, obviously, they can be nuts and be dead ass wrong on something, but if I try to say, could I'm feeling threat physiology here, and could anybody else not be? Probably. Often, realistically, it's me based on my illusion. I get to consider it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't go into a lot of detail about this, but maybe another time. When I wrote the book Get Weird, and after we were working with John and Joyce, I created three different dialects. I talked about the I dialect, which is what we do with our interpersonal relationships. And that's Sage. Yeah, and then I talked about we, which is where we have shared agreements, and that's, for example, innocent until proven guilty. That's not actually true. It's just we agree we're going to live in that manner. And then the third one was the dialect of it, which is the realm of science and math, where people believe things are actually objective. I thought that might help people who were very resistant, people who said, well, no, there are things that are real. We haven't focused on that in the blueprint. And John didn't completely agree with me. He thought that it was a helpful way for people to step into SAGE.
Huh.
But from his point of view, everything was an interpretation, including science and math. I don't want to go down that path right now, but he was very extreme in this stance that he took toward the world. And he believed everything was a subjective interpretation.
He's probably right.
He usually was.
I
So,
I had this discussion literally yesterday with a guy, and I just said, I am choosing, Kevin, am choosing in my chosen illusion to really speak and think as if everything is subjective, even gravity, which we can get into quantum physics. Is that a tree? Is this wood? I don't know, but I'm kind of choose to speak that way. That I am believing in gravity today, and I'm not going to choose to jump off the side of my roof. I can't imagine being able to do that without great injury. I expect I'll be believing that tomorrow, but I'm going to leave it open and not claim it rigidly. Why not? I hurt and harm nobody, and I like the brain practice of looking at it. And in talking with my friend Randy, who Dr. Randy James, recently, we were talking about this last Friday, actually. And I not confronted, but we were debating a little bit. And I said, look, man, how many of your beliefs, staunch beliefs that you had 5 years ago, even more so 10 years ago, do you no longer hold? And that he kind of sat back. He said, "Yeah, yeah, it's true." I said, "Well, so how many of them today? You probably will believe in gravity, probably, but why not hold it subjectively?" I enjoy playing with it that way.
Yeah, and I don't know which way you meant it when you said there's quantum physics, but actually in physics, there's also this very well proven idea that the observer affects the outcome, right? So even
Yeah.
at that level, this idea of subjectivity is alive and very, very powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, that one. So is the tree out there? Is it really a tree? I
Right.
probably as best I can figure. I did want to, and I know we're about at the end of our time here, Leonard. I just appreciate the question. He said, "I make myself curious. Have the Weirs, so John and Joyce Weir, who their Jake has them in the credits, the acknowledgments of the Sage Blueprint. That is where." Jake and Hannah, if you're listening and don't know, that's where they found some of these concepts 20 years ago. So we can maybe talk about that another time. But Leonard is saying, have the Weirs, John and Joyce Weir, have their children and grandchildren been invited to these sessions? I interest myself with their experience also. I recently asked Jake and Hannah if they were in contact, and you mentioned the possibility of maybe doing that. I'd be curious to check in with them as well.
Yeah, it'd be fun to reach out to the grandkids. We are in touch with their daughter, and she's sort of just gone a different path, and this isn't really the focus in her life. But it'd be fun to track down the grandkids and see how they're doing and see if they'd ever like to come join us. So thanks for the suggestion. Yeah.
Yeah. Kids who we mentioned a bit, when we talked to Serene, kids who grew up with subjective language, and your projection, your experience, your interpretation of them is that they're remarkably secure individuals.
Yeah. Very, very unusual. For kids of the age when we knew them to not be looking at other people to find out, am I okay, do you approve of me? They didn't have those tendencies. So we're getting close to wrapping up. I just want to summarize that um, projection is not only a defense mechanism. At times it may be. It is a natural consequence of living subjectively, that we're always going to be interpreting and then forming projections based on our interpretations. And we can't not do that. So we want to take away the idea that it's wrong or bad or problematic. It's none of
Mhm.
those things if we become clear that that's what I'm doing. I just want you to know what my projection is. And I want to take responsibility that this is my projection. It's not reality. And it's not a statement about you. And so, again, I go back to this very simple model. In any interaction with two people, there's four perspectives. There's you, there's me, there's you in my mind, what I'm doing with you, and there's me in your mind, what you're doing with me. And again, almost all the time in our interactions, we're actually sharing our inner interpretation of the other person. Very rarely do we describe another person in an objective manner, almost always subjective. And so,
Yeah.
whenever you find yourself in an interaction that feels tense or confusing, if you can stop and break it down and say, wait a minute, am I talking about you or am I talking about me? That's just going to take the conversation to a whole nother level.
I, again, to own this, I got to walk this out acutely. I still get to, it's not as much now, but going through a divorce with all of my kids, and invariably to have one say, "Okay, dad, so what happened here with you and mom?" For me to sage myself and to say, I can't tell you what happened. I can tell you one side of a story, but it's just that's all I got. I got my story with my own biases, my own dealing with my own threat physiology. So I can tell you, you're going to hear something very different over here. And then you're going to take two stories and then create your own.
Right.
And I had a couple instances with kids where when I presented it that way, I really presented like, you ready for this? Are you game for this? Is this really what you want to know? Do you want to hear dad's story? Do you want to hear mom's story? And then know that you're going to be left responsible to make your own up. And I had times where a few times where they said, yeah, I'm good. I'm out. No, don't worry about it. I thought, Great.
People listening, just think about this. If you're the kid and that's what your dad is saying to you after your parents get divorced, I mean, to me, I just sane myself with that. I just settled down. I go, that makes so much sense that there isn't a story. There's dad's experience, there's mom's experience, and then there's my interpretation of the whole thing. I just find that so respectful.
Gosh, and in that, you started this off saying there's 4 people involved in this two-way conversation. You, me, and the me and you and me. And in this scenario with a kid coming, I just added 2 more. And the dynamics of that, and it brought us to be, and it's really dangerous to be talking about our experience with someone, especially if they're not there, and hold it with much gravity. Uh, well, thanks. I continue to learn, continue to evolve, continue to sage.
Nice to be part of this whole thing and do it with you. And thanks
Likewise.
everybody for joining us. And we'll work out the technical aspects of this as we go forward. We're going to get that to be a little bit smoother.
Oh, well, I'll talk with Christy since it's her fault.
Oh, good.
Okay. Thanks, Christy. Thank you all for joining us. Oops.